Well, supposing the boys threw you a testimonial dinner, sort of a spontaneous tribute to their business agent.
I ain't heard anything about a spontaneous tribute.
That's because we didn't tell him about it yet.
Hello to all the classic people that are returning. I'm glad you're back. I want to welcome any new visitors. Today, on Classic Movie Review, we are taking on the Film Noir, New Orleans Uncensored 1955. I want to shout out to Bulow for his comment on Forbidden Planet 1956, also to Trevino for his comment on 12 O'Clock High 1949. I agree with you both. This second-tier film noir has a rating of 5.9 on IMDb.com. On RottenTomatoes.com, the film does not have a tomato meter score and only a 20% audience rating. Crikey! A New York Times film review from April 30th, 1955 had a lot to say about this movie, but I have always been told if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. The review stated, a standard, banal story of pilfering and dockside skullduggery. Skullduggery? That's a great word, and we should try to work it into our conversation every day. The review continued that it is the adventures in the Delta City of a terribly dense young dock worker. I really have to agree with that statement. It said later, all the effort applied to New Orleans Uncensored to make it look like a documentary has made it appear patently unreal. The use of non-professionals is fine when they can act, but in this film the civic leaders who were recruited just can't act. The review finishes off with, if one were to seek a word to cover each and every aspect of New Orleans Uncensored, undistinguished would do nicely. I will touch on the comments made above during the review and in the conclusions. Actors.
Right, and I'm a Shakespearean actor.
Beverly Garland played Marie Riley, the good girl with darker hair. Garland was first mentioned in DOA 1949. Mike Mazurki played Torpedo, Big Mike. Mazurki was really good in this role, playing a real dumb leg breaker. Mazurki was first covered in The Shanghai Gesture, 1941. Arthur France played naive newcomer Dan Corbett. France was born in New Jersey in 1920. Both of his parents were German immigrants. France became interested in acting in high school. Still, he had to make a slight detour before getting into the business. France served as a navigator in the U.S. Army Air Force during World War II. He was placed in a POW camp in Romania after his plane was shot down. He later escaped and ended the war at the rank of major. France's first film was Jungle Patrol, 1948. A laundry list of other films includes Sands of Iwo Jima, 1949, Red Light, 1949, Tarnish, 1950, Submarine Commander, 1951, Flight to Mars, 1951, Bud Abbott and Lou Costello Meet the Invisible Man, 1951, The Sniper, 1952, where he had a significant role, Flight Nurse, 1953, Invaders from Mars, 1953, The Caine Mutiny, 1954 as one of the officers, New Orleans Uncensored, 1955, Battle Taxi, 1955, Beyond a Reasonable Doubt, 1956, The Unholy Wife, 1957, Hellcats of the Navy, 1957, The Young Lions, 1958, Woman Obsessed, 1959, The Carpetbaggers, 1964, Alvarez Kelly, 1966, Anzio, 1968, The $1 Million Duck, 1971, look it up if you hadn't seen it, and King Monster, 1976. France died in 2006. Helen Stanton played the role of Alma May, the bad girl with bleached blonde hair. Stanton was born in Pennsylvania in 1925. As a Ute, she took voice and ballet lessons. When Stanton turned 21, she began working with the Cosmopolitan Production Company in Philadelphia. She was in many theatrical productions. Stanton married Kenneth Harlan in 1949. Harlan was an ex-silent film star. This was his 8th marriage. Wow. I wonder what the common denominator is. This marriage ended in 1953. Stanton worked in Las Vegas, opening for Frank Sinatra. She also developed her own nightclub act. In 1953, she married Morton D. Penske. Usually I wouldn't even mention this marriage. Still, due to this marriage, she gave birth to Dr. Drew Pinsky. He wasn't a doctor at the time. Stanton was also in the first of her 7 films, One Girl's Confession, 1953. The others are Jungle Moon Men, 1955, New Orleans Uncensored, 1955, Sudden Danger, 1955, The Big Combo, 1955, Phantom of 10,000 Leagues, 1955, and Four Girls in Town, 1957. Stanton died in 2017. Michael and Sarah played crime boss Floyd Zero Saxon. Holy blue gin, Batman! And Sarah was born in Syria in 1922. He was 2 years old when his family moved to the U.S. 10 years later, they moved to California. And Sarah studied at Los Angeles City College, but eventually ended up at the Pasadena Playhouse. This opened the door to theater and film work. He became pretty popular playing Cochise on television's Broken Arrow from 1956 to 1960. During the run of Broken Arrow, he met and later married Barbara Eden. He would go on to play the Blue Gin on I Dream of Jeannie in 1966. And Sarah had almost 200 film and television roles. He played a wide variety of ethnic backgrounds with many Arabs and a lot of Native Americans. His movie roles were not great and included Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy, 1955, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, 1961, Harem Scarum, 1965 with Elvis, The Pink Jungle, 1968, Dear Dead Delilah, 1972, The Message, 1976, The Manitou, 1978, and The Assassin, 1987. His most significant impact was on television, where he appeared in many of the most popular shows. For me, if he's not the Blue Gin, he's Klingon Commander Kang on Star Trek in 1966, Star Trek Deep Space Nine in 1993, and Star Trek Voyager in 1995. And Sarah died at the age of 91 in 2013. Stacy Harris played ex-boxer Scrappy Durant. Harris was born in Canada in 1918. Some sources say Washington. Harris became a U.S. pilot in 1937, but a crash and leg injury ended his flying. Some sources say he was a merchant marine during World War II. In contrast, others say he served as an ambulance driver and as a dispatch rider for the French Foreign Legion. The second rings more towards the First World War. Beginning in radio, Harris amassed 143 film and television credits between 1950 and 1972. The overwhelming majority of these were television roles. On his first film, Harris met Jack Webb, who became a lifelong friend. Harris was in Dragnet 1954, directed by Jack Webb. Harris made 5 appearances on Dragnet, 1951 to 1954. He also made an additional 8 appearances on Dragnet 1967, from 1967 to 1970. Some films that Harris is known for include Comanche 1956, The Hunters 1958, Mike Hammer 1958, The Great Sioux Massacre 1965, and Bloody Mama 1970. Harris died of a heart attack in 1973 at the young age of 54. Story.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
The movie begins in documentary style, explaining how New Orleans, one of the most corrupt cities in America, has been untouched by crime on their booming loading docks. In reality, founded in 1718, this town has been home to rapscallions and thieves since its creation. Later, they actually talk about the pirate Jean Lafitte, who looted and stole goods only to sell them in the swamps south of town. The area still bears the name Barataria, which is closely associated with bargains or rigattaire. Anyway, the narrator goes on to tell how New Orleans has become the second largest port in America behind New York. I think it ranks around 7 now. They then bring on Louisiana Senator Allen J. Elander Sr. Elander, like most of those guys, was a racist and was alleged to suppress black votes. The scene switches to the docks where workers are waiting to go through the shake-up. Men are hired daily. This allows for the non-selection of blacks, any non-compliant union people, and anyone not willing to go along with any skullduggery. As one crew is hired, another crew under Joe Riley, William Henry, the second dumbest son of a bitch in this movie, arrives. Riley says that his crew has this job under their boss, Floyd Zero Saxon, Michael and Sarah. The first dumbest son of a bitch in this movie, Dan Corbett, Arthur France, shows up on the dock looking for a scrapyard. The two crews start fighting, and really, I've seen tougher middle school dances. Dan escapes from the Donnybrook after throwing a few punches. The movie then shows a meeting between some locals from the shipping industry, along with Zero and some other professional actors. The conclusion is that Zero has the low bid, but he is paying fair wages and they can take no action. The union and the shippers stand up for Zero. Dan finds the scrapyard. After Dan was discharged from the U.S. Navy, he decided to purchase a war surplus landing ship medium, or LSM. This is like one of those World War II landing crafts, but much larger with the ability to haul tanks and things of that nature. Mac in the scrapyard thinks Dan is nuts and tries to talk him out of making the down payment.
Say, you mean to tell me you came all the way down here to buy an LSM?
Your ad says $4,500. Practically buys the ship. I'll take care of the balance later. I got the $4,500.
There she is. And this is the stack off of her. I use it for my office. But I guess I can change offices.
Dan is determined, believing he can sail up the Mississippi River, cut large timber, and sell it in New Orleans at a massive profit. The LSM looks like it's been hit by a bomb and would take tens of thousands of dollars to get in shape. Dan makes a down payment, but he has to get a job to make the monthly payments. Mac recommends Dan try to get a job at the docks. Mac gives Dan a ticket to the longshoremen's picnic at Lake Pontchartrain Beach. Lake Pontchartrain Beach was an amusement park that operated from 1928 to 1983. The lake is a sewer-infested hellhole now. Beware of green screen doors and mosquitoes. Dan goes to the party and hooks up with bleach blonde Alma Mae, Helen Stanton. They dance and play arcade games. Alma says she was brought to the party by Jack Petty, Michael Granger, the Longshoremen Union's business agent. Alma already knows about the boat Dan bought. Dan paws on Alma a little, and she takes it in stride.
Am I doing this right?
Yeah, I'll check you out.
Well, you're different.
So are you. In all the right places.
Don't skid going around the curves.
A drunk approaches and virtually falls on Alma while asking her to dance. She gets upset and the drunk throws a punch at Dan. Dan floors the drunk with one punch. Apparently, this is a much desired skill among the longshoremen. The drunk is the light heavyweight champ of the union. Petty comes and tells Alma to get Dan's weight. Dan and Alma go to Café du Monde and eat beignets. I want some. Alma says it is a way of saying goodnight in New Orleans.
Everyone at one time or another comes here to the Café du Monde. It's a way of saying goodnight.
Oh, no, wait a minute. I've got my own way of saying goodnight.
After coffee and donuts here, the boy goes to his home and the girl goes to hers. It's an old New Orleans custom.
I guess that's why I'm mostly eating them while drunk. Alma tells Dan to see Petty in the morning to get a job. She tells Dan to drop by the stevedore's office the next day. The next day, Riley turns hiring duties over to his assistant, Charlie, Ed Nelson. Dan asks Riley for a job. Alma has called Petty, and Petty called Riley about getting Dan a job. Dan asks why the men all have a cigarette behind one of their ears. Riley explains that they have to kick back part of their pay to Zero.
How can they underbid if they pay union rates? Unless they kick back.
Kick back? You make it sound like a dirty word.
Kickback's a kickback in any language.
Sure. Let's say they invest their money. Every man wants to work for Zero Saxon because they know when they work for Saxon, they work every day. It pays off in the long run. Cigarette?
Dan takes a cigarette, but doesn't see any corruption on the docks. One night, Dan and Riley go to Diamond Jim Moran's, a local bookie and mafia associates restaurant, where they will meet their, quote, dates. Riley's wife Marie, Beverly Garland, arrives with her brother, Scrappy Durant, Stacy Harris, as a joke. They want Dan to meet Scrappy because Scrappy has been a prize fighter, formerly managed by Zero. Scrappy runs the Union boxing team. Dan takes the joke well and the two men become friends. Before the group can get inside, Big Mike Mazurki, arrives and tells Riley that Zero wants to see him. Riley tells the group that he will see them back at the apartment. They hit all the hot spots around town. Who knew that New Orleans once had a Moulin Rouge? There's even a cameo of Diamond Jim Moran. At some point, Scrappy gives up and goes home. Dan and Marie take a carriage ride back to Marie and Riley's place. Dan goes up, but there's no sign of Riley. Joe mentions how he would like to have a place like hers, and she warns him to stay a nice fellow.
When your ship comes in?
Oh, you heard about it too. My boat. Should be all mine in about a year.
Doesn't that cost a lot of money?
It does. But I'll get it somehow.
Don't let it cost too much, Dan.
What do you mean?
You seem like a nice fellow. Stay that way. Nice.
Marie is jaded by her life. Back on the docks, Dan is trying to learn the job by doing extra tasks. When he checks some cargo, he finds two men loading boxes into a truck that shouldn't be loaded. One of the guys throws a punch at Dan and is knocked out for his trouble. The littler guy attacks and gets a beating for his trouble. Riley tells that Dan won't make that mistake again. Dan still doesn't see any corruption on the dock. Alma comes out to have lunch with Dan as he works on his boat. Alma is jaded by her life as well. She does admit there is another guy in her life. Dan goes to work out at the St. Mary's CYO boxing gym. The CYO probably stands for Catholic Youth Organization, but everyone in the gym looks to be over 35. Scrappy introduces a couple of pro fighters to Dan. First was Pete Herman, the bantamweight champion from 1917 to 1920. He had a record of 69 wins, 11 losses, 8 draws, and 61 no decisions. I don't know what that's about. The second was Ralph Dupas. Dupas was the light middleweight champion for a while in 1963. He had a record of 106 wins, 23 losses, and 6 draws. Dupas was also trained by Angelo Dundee, who later trained Muhammad Ali. Scrappy still wants Dan to fight. Dan asks about Riley's income, and Scrappy gets a little scrappy. Scrappy says that the marriage is in trouble. Riley goes to see his criminal boss, Zero. Also around are Alma, Big Mike, and Deuce, Frank Ray Pirelli, who does any thinking Big Mike needs. Riley tells Zero that he wants to get out of the gang to start his own stevedoring outfit. Zero tells him sure, no problem.
Okay, everybody, let's wish the best of luck to Boss Riley.
Oh, thanks, Zero. Thanks, everybody.
How about a drink, Joe?
No, I've got to run along. Marie's waiting for me. Thanks, Zero. Bye.
He's a nice guy. No? You know something? He'll go far.
After he leaves, Zero gets a revolver out and gives it to Deuce. He says not to throw the gun away after the hit is done. Big Mike and Deuce track Riley through the crowded streets of New Orleans. They grab him, but he makes a break at the Court of Two Sisters. Riley can't get away from the thugs and is shot down at a locked gate. Marie and Dan are waiting at the apartment for Riley to show, not knowing he will never arrive. Marie says all the work and money don't matter. She wants Riley. Dan is pro hard work. Marie knows that Riley is meeting with Zero about a big deal. Charlie gets interrogated by the police after Riley's body is found floating in the Mississippi River with 4 holes in it. The police, city, and union men still maintain that there is no corruption in New Orleans. Dan tries to comfort Marie, but she is at her wit's end. Marie says she knows that Zero killed Riley. She says she lost her husband when he started working for Zero. Zero shows up at the dock with an insurance inspector. They shine the inspector on. A truck driver refuses to take a cargo load unless he can inspect it, as laid out in the union rules. Deuce and Big Mike are about to attack the driver when the insurance inspector sees the action. The inspector impounds the cargo and no one can touch the boxes. Deuce has to stop Big Mike from roughhousing the inspector. Zero tells a man that he'll have to get rid of the impounded cargo. Dan meets with Scrappy at the gym. Scrappy wants Dan to fight to make more money.
How you doing in the dough department, Dan? That must cost a lot of scratch.
Not too good. Costs too much just to live.
You ever think of fighting, Dan? Oh, I don't mean amateur. I mean pro. That's big money and quick.
Can't be so great if you quit. Got a great record, right on top. All of a sudden, boom, you retire.
Dan has to leave for the night shift. Deuce and Big Mike are on the dock watching the hiring boss roll a flammable barrel against the impounded cargo. Charlie sees the fire and the arsonist knocks him out. Dan sees the fire and uses a tug to push it in the water. Finally, the union head explains to Jack Petty that something might be happening at the docks. Petty tries to explain away the fire as an accident. Then Petty asks for a chance to clean up his own mess. Petty goes directly to see Zero.
If Al knew the local was solid for you, had confidence in you, trusted you, he wouldn't dare kick you out, would he?
No, but how's he gonna think that?
Well, supposing the boys threw you a testimonial dinner, sort of a spontaneous tribute to their business agent.
I ain't heard anything about a spontaneous tribute.
That's because we didn't tell him about it yet.
Zero plans to have a testimonial dinner for Petty.
And their hearts are no bigger than yours. But they have one thing you haven't got, a testimonial.
They decide they're going to make a hero out of Dan. Dan gets a message to stop by Alma's apartment. She gives him drinks and kisses him. Alma is responsible for making sure that Dan gets to the testimonial dinner. She gets right to work kissing Dan. At the testimonial dinner, they have the fire department chief give Dan a certificate of merit. Zero publicly offers Dan the job of assistant hiring boss. They then thank Jack for giving Dan a break. The union president reluctantly gives a solid gold cigarette lighter to Petty. Zero gives out gift bags to the ladies. Charlie mentions that the gift bags came from money extorted from the workers. Dan tries to celebrate with Marie, but she leaves mad. Scrappy tells Dan that it hurt Marie that Dan didn't take her advice to avoid Zero and the corruption. Scrappy says that Zero is into all kinds of rackets. Alma selects the cargo while working at the stevedore's office.
One of them's how much you hurt Marie.
Hurt Marie? How?
Dan, look, we both like you. She doesn't want to see you get all mixed up the way Joe did.
You gonna give me a line about Zero?
Look, I've been keeping my mouth shut, but my ears and eyes are working overtime. That stevedore corporation is Zero's. That's just a cover-up for his real operation, big-time smuggling and pilfering on the docks. And that dame you're with tonight, she's the one that fingers the cargoes for him.
Deuce and Big Mike watch Scrappy talk to Dan. Scrappy tries to explain the theft using the shell game example. Dan doesn't suspect anything is going on at the dock and leaves mad. Zero and Dan have a talk, and Zero explains that it's a back-scratching game. Dan still doesn't see anything wrong. Alma stays with Zero. Dan still talks about his dream of going up the river. Zero says somebody got to Dan after he offered him the job. Deuce and Big Mike finger Scrappy. Zero says he will have to get Scrappy one more fight because he can't take any more killing. Dan is in the ring sparring and catching a beating. Deuce and Big Mike meet with Scrappy at the gym. They tell Scrappy that Dan ratted him out to Zero. Scrappy gets furious and rushes to confront Dan in the ring. I've seen this technique masterfully employed where I used to work. You have to evaluate information for content and intent before acting on it. Scrappy calls Dan a double-crosser and starts slugging him. Dan takes it for a bit. The fight is shown in shadows on the wall as Dan is knocked down. When Dan realizes the attack will not stop, he delivers a single punch to Scrappy's torso. Scrappy falls dead. Dan then hears that Deuce and Big Mike were talking to Scrappy. Dan is broken down by the death of his friend. Dan meets with Marie and he tries to comfort her over her brother's death. Finally, she tells Dan that Scrappy had a bum ticker and couldn't fight. When Marie tells Dan that Zero knew about the heart problem as Scrappy's former manager, Dan finally realizes that there is some corruption on the docks. Dan meets with the head of the union and the police commissioner. He explains how the theft works using the cup and pee trick. Now, Dan never saw anything on the docks, and he never let Scrappy explain it to him, so how could he know how? The scheme is a little more elaborate than just stealing. Fake invoices, shipping documents, and cargo box markings are used to send empty boxes to foreign ports. Fake boxes are placed on the dock, and the authentic merchandise is hidden in a warehouse. The losses can then be blamed on the foreign shippers. Dan recommends using radio transmitters within the stolen cargo to track where the trucks move the merchandise. Dan places a fairly large radio transmitter into a crate. He almost gets caught. When the truck with the cargo leaves, police cars with directional antennas track the truck. The cargo is taken to a warehouse where it is switched to a different truck. The police are able to follow the second truck. They keep placing trackers in cargo until they find all of Zero's distribution points. One of Zero's workers finds the transmitter and gives it to Big Mike, who in turn gives it to Zero. Zero orders Big Mike to have the legitimate cargo returned to the docks. Zero heads out to fix the associated records. Zero warns Big Mike not to use the phone, but he is not too bright. He uses the phone and gives the information. The police are monitoring the call. The union boss orders the dockmen to strike and not allow anyone onto the dock.
If that cargo gets back on the docks, our evidence is gone. If we stop the trucks, they'll know we're monitoring their warehouse calls.
I think we can fix that. Hello? Al speaking. Yeah, I want all the men pulled off Zero Saxon stocks. Right now. Yeah, it's a strike. Too many accidents. Whatever signs you got. And get this. Tell the pickets to let no one on or off the docks.
Zero and his cronies finally realize that Dan is the one who turned them into the police. The police chief orders the 3 warehouses raided. Police chief and some of his men will head to the docks. Zero confronts and beats Dan about tipping the police off. At the docks, the men have formed a picket line. They turn the truck that is trying to replace the cargo away. Zero sends one of his cronies to round up a mob of paid strike busters. Dan is out cold. Zero takes the gun used to kill Riley and puts Dan's fingerprints on the gun. Zero leaves Big Mike and Alma alone with Dan. A couple of truckloads of strike busters arrive at the dock. A fight breaks out, but this time they have clubs and knives. Nobody gets hurt too bad as there is a lot of slapping and pushing. Zero arrives at the dock shipping office to get the records. Dan wakes and Alma gives him a drink. He tells her that if she helps him, he will talk to the police on her behalf. She throws a quarter glass of brandy in Big Mike's face.
Talk to the cops, they'll give you a break.
Suppose they won't.
It'll be worth a chance. If you're picked up with Zero, it'll be nothing short of murder. Trust me, I'll go to bat for you.
Shut up, you punk.
He flops around like it was acid. Dan jumps up and beats the big man down. Dan makes it to the dock and sees Zero stealing the records. Dan now has Big Mike's gun. Zero runs away between 2 conveyor belts. This is one of the movie's weakest parts. Zero shoots Dan in the arm. Dan fires back and Zero goes down. However, he was not ground up by the conveyor belts. They miss an excellent opportunity to kill a bad guy in style. The police finally arrive, like the cavalry coming too late. Later, Marie is hanging out with Dan at his boat. Over the radio, an announcement is made saying Zero is responsible for the murder of Riley. Mac watches Dan and Marie, who are now a couple, walk away to work on the boat. The narration says New Orleans port has been saved from corruption. Conclusions. I'm not going to go against any of the statements raised in the New York Times review above. It's always problematic for modern audiences when devoted racists are portrayed as good guys in older movies, such as Senator Alan J. Ellender Sr. The overall story is pretty weak as Dan misses most of the crime taking place around him. He, like Riley, is a dumb son of a bitch in this film. A pretty convincing case could be made that this film is a crime drama instead of a film noir. Overall, it was not as dark as it could have been, and it didn't have a good, vicious femme fatale. Mike Mazurki was pretty good as Big Mike. They made him really dumb and gave him a partner, Deuce, to do the heavy thinking. It was handled quite humorously. The best part of watching this movie was seeing scenes of historic New Orleans. Very little of what was shown in this film remains. Thank Jean Lafitte that Café du Monde still stands. World famous short summary. After her husband and brother are murdered, a woman lives happily ever after. This show is now completely free and independent, brought to you without ads. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review where you get your podcast. It really helps the show get found. As a technical note, references and citations are listed for each show on the site at classicmovierev.com. Beware the Moors.